For those of you who do not know me, my name is Joe Skipper with eXp Realty, and Cody, my buddy over there. You can introduce yourself.
Hey guys, Cody Wilhelm. I'm with Residential Mortgage here in Vancouver, Washington.
Nice, nice. And you work in Washington, but you can service Oregon, right?
I can
Just want
service
to be
Oregon.
clear on
Yep.
that.
Yep. I can cover 9 different states right now. So mostly
Nice.
West Coast, and we're working our way over into the kind of the Midwest. So yeah, Oregon, Washington, those are definitely two. Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Utah, all the West Coast places.
Nice, nice. Well, how have you been, man?
Yep.
How was the week in the mortgage industry?
It was good. It's we're still kind of fighting the same battle with inventory. I know you're probably seeing that too. Interest rates really didn't have a overall big movement to them. I know last week when we did this, they were at 7.41 was kind of like the overall 30-year average. Today it's 7.45, so really minimal movement. Had a couple good days, a couple bad days, but we're just plugging away.
Yeah, I heard. Obviously we talk about how the news can change week to week, but I did hear
Yeah,
some good news from NAR saying that like they are projecting that rates will go down
yeah,
uh, over the quarters of next year and things like that. So that's at
yeah.
least positive news at this point. But
Yeah, that seems to be the expectation, is that we should be starting to see that here. 2024, we'll probably start to see things shift a little bit, just be a matter of how much and when that starts. But overall, I
exactly.
think we're in a good spot.
Yeah, always hard to guess that. But
Yep.
hey, today I wanted to talk about a couple issues. I wanted to first just go into home equity line of credit because we talked a little bit last week and how that I think people underestimate it and underuse it when it's available, or just to have it available for a fund. So I just wanted to kind of go over that. If we have time, go over some of the services that your company provides, because I know we had talked about some of the things that you provide that are similar to a HELOC,
Hmm.
but can help people in whether it's a pinch or an emergency, or whether it's in, they want to make improvements on a home, or, whatever they need to do with it and
Yep.
things, there's different regulations and things, but I just wanted to go over that with you. But I wanted to start, I just saw these this morning, actually. Um, and I was just looking at how much home equity, like how much equity people have in a home. And first off, I wanted to, some people don't even know what home equity is. Basically, and you can correct me if I'm wrong because I'm getting into the mortgage world. But basically, you have a $500,000 home, you put $100,000 in, immediately you have a $100,000 equity
Yep.
in the home. As time goes on and as you pay off that debt, the home, you know, traditionally rises in value. Your payment, and your mortgage lowers. So you get just
Hmm.
more and more equity. And what we're talking about today is being able to uh, utilize some of that, that equity in the home to maybe make improvements. Some lenders will allow refinancing, or allow it to be used for another purchase of another home and
Hmm.
various things like that. So anyways, that is what a home equity is. But what I found was Oregon, one, had the highest percentage of increase of new residents in 2022, second to Vermont.
Oh,
But that home values rose 24% since 2016 and 47% since 2018 in Oregon. Um, and the calculations are a little different, but it's saying that they held 58% of home equity compared to the average home value of 422,000. So basically, that they home equity as a percentage of their value of their home, they're about 58% in Oregon of the home value, which is huge. That's
hmm.
a lot of
Yeah.
equity in the home. I also just wanted to say that I just saw this nationally, that only, and you can correct me because you might have better stats, but only 2% of homeowners with a mortgage were in negative equity as in quarter 2 of this year, um, which is big, and which maybe leads us to that topic of people always saying, well, when's it going to fall? When's the thing's going to fail? When are
Yeah.
people? But what we're seeing is that most homeowners are in a better position than 2008 when they were underwater in their homes. We're seeing a very small amount of homeowners that are in negative equity, that actually owe more than their house is worth.
Absolutely. I
So
I agree wholeheartedly with that, and I think that that's why, in my opinion, it would take a lot to really like kind of cripple the housing market, because so many people did get in, even though it might not have been this like cheap 2011, 2012, where you got your house for really cheap, but you got it early enough that you were able to kind of ride that wave of the appreciation of homes. So a lot of people are in that position. And if people have gotten behind, they're still in a position where they can sell and make money rather than I have no equity. You're just kind of stuck there. So, yeah, it's been kind of a hot topic over the last year of taking out equity in your home, partially because, when rates were a little bit lower, it wasn't really that much of a thought. You just do a cash out refi because the interest rates were so low. It was easy to do. A 30-year period of time, that keeps your payment really pretty manageable. But as we've seen interest rates rise, it's become more of like, I want to leave my 3% or even 4% rate that I have, but I want to access some of this equity without messing up my payment on there. So that's where these home equity line of credits, they've really kind of blown up or become a lot more popular because there's all that equity that people have. So you're essentially, what you're doing is you're leaving your first mortgage, your main loan that you have, you're leaving it alone, and you're just adding on a line of credit. So HELOC, for those of you that don't know, stands for home equity line of credit. And so think of that as like a credit card for your equity in your home, right? So if you take out $100,000 HELOC, you're going to be taking out a line of credit for $100,000. So that's obviously, you have to have the equity in order to do that, but they're giving you a line of credit that you can use. So say you only use 20,000 of that. Well, your payment is based on 20,000. So you still have 80,000 more that you can access. So that's the big attraction for that is you're only paying for what you've taken out of it. And you can use it for essentially anything that you want. And then there's a home equity loan, which it's the same thing. You're using that for equity, but it's going to be a set amount. So in the situation where you take out $100,000, you now have $100,000 that's been deposited into your bank account, and you're making payments on that $100,000, right? So it's going to be kind of different purposes for what your needs are. A lot of times with a home equity line of credit, they'll have like introductory terms where it might be interest only for the first year or a couple years, and then after that, it's going to be principal and interest. And so there's a few different moving parts with that, but really the ways to take out equity, the home equity line of credit, a second loan or a home equity loan, or a cash out refi. So that one, the cash out refi it's going to consolidate it all into one. So again, that's going to be one where you're really going to want to kind of analyze what your intentions are for the money that you're getting, right? If it's something that's kind of a short term, maybe a little investment, you might be better off trying to do a home equity line of credit. If it's a long term, we're renovating the home, and we're going to be here for a while. As crazy as it sounds, you might end up saving more money by doing a cash out refi because you're looking at a 30-year term as opposed to a home equity line that might be like a 10-year or 15-year. So payment wise, it's really going to be a matter of kind of crunching down the numbers on that. But various ways to do that. I know last week we had talked about bridge loans too. So I wanted to kind of bring that up too on what is a bridge loan? What does that look like? Essentially, a bridge loan is a line of credit that you're using for purchasing another home. So say you currently own and you have 200,000 in equity, but you don't have the down payment to purchase this next home, and you want to sell that home after you've moved, right? So it's kind of like the perfect scenario. Well, some places will not allow you to do that because they know that you're just going to sell that home in 2 months. So they don't want to give you this line of credit because as a bank, they're looking to make interest. So for them, they're giving you this line of credit and they're only going to make 2 months worth of interest or whatever it might be. So you have to look for a bridge loan, which is just like it sounds. It's just bridging the gap, right? It's going to be more of a temporary loan, but they're going to have different terms. Typically, it's going to have a little bit higher of an interest rate because they want to get their money. They're giving you money for a really short period of time, but it's essentially the same process. I mean, you're just getting a line of credit on that. So really, and that's where I would say, if anybody is looking into it for whatever reason it is, make sure that you just tell the whole story to your loan officer, the bank, whoever you're working with. Make sure you just give them the full picture because our job is to put you in the right loan for what you're doing, right? So if some things get left out, we don't want that to ever come back and hurt you. Or maybe if we would have known these details, we would have put you in this loan. So just kind of share the overall, because there's a lot of variation that can come into taking out equity.
Yeah. What's we have a couple questions here. What are
Mhm.
the interest rates? Like, how are they determined? Are they the typical mortgage rate, or are they determined by each individual bank, or can you shop around for rates on that?
Yeah, you can shop around for rates. So you're gonna have variation just like you would with the mortgage rates. Some companies are gonna offer a little bit more competitive. Some are gonna, maybe that's not their specialty, so they want to just kind of take what they can get with it. But yeah, you can shop around. A lot of them will offer fairly similar terms, but some may be a little more restricting on the loan to value, which is essentially your equity, right? Like some places will go up to say 100%, where you could take out all of your equity, and then others might only go up to 90%. So you can only take out up to 90% between your mortgage and your home equity line. So yeah, interest rates. When I was looking earlier, because we don't offer home equity line of credit, we can do a second loan, or like a essentially a home equity loan is kind of what they're referred to as a lot of times. But I was looking in the average per bankrate.com, the average was anywhere from like 9 to 12% for a home equity line of credit. So
So
you can
it's
shop
it's
around.
it's decently high, but better than a credit card generally. Yeah.
Definitely better than a credit card.
Yeah.
And again, you have that line of credit to be able to use down the road. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And we talked a little bit about it last week, and I think it's important to let people know that you don't have to use this. It is something that we've got it in our family. I don't know if you have them. It
Hmm.
just to have them as not only just as a safety, that you just have access to equity in your home if you need it for
Hmm.
whatever emergencies or whatever may happen, but also for investment purposes. Some banks allow you to use that money to invest in another property or
Hmm.
remodel the home that you're in, like, and leverage that money to be able to you know to grow wealth. Like we have used it in our townhome, for example, use that home equity to remodel our
Hmm.
current home, and we're still having our renters pay for all of that, and so
There
it's
you
just
go.
leveraging the money. So I don't think there's a loss to it, and I think people maybe either don't know or maybe are a little intimidated by HELOCs to think, oh, I'm pulling this money out so I have to pay it back. And it's like, well, if you don't use it, it's there and
Yep.
just be there. But it's when you need it, or when you are looking to buy a home or looking to invest, it just takes one step out of the process,
Hmm.
of what figuring out where that money's coming from.
Yeah, and your scenario there too is a great example as to why I think it does make a lot of sense to get it, even if you don't think you're going to need it, just to open it up, right? Because on a primary residence, so the home that you're currently living in, you're going to typically get a better interest rate and terms because it's a primary residence. Whereas if you went to get a home equity line on a rental property, they're going to have a little bit more restricting terms, because overall every institution is more or less looking at like the safety and security, right? Like it's going to be a little bit easier for you to let go of a rental property than it is your primary residence. So there's a lot more safety there. So you never know what a year or 2 years or 5 years down the road looks like, and there's nothing better than knowing that you have that there, as opposed to, hey, this opportunity fell in my lap, but I can't access the money now. I wish I would have
Mhm.
done that a couple years ago. So I will say too, usually with home equity lines, um, their interest rates change with the market too. So there's some variation with it. That can be an ongoing thing, as opposed to say like if you did a cash out refi, your rate is fixed. That's a fixed rate. That's not going to
Yeah.
change no matter what the market does. So multiple things to take into consideration when you're looking at taking out equity. But overall, I think you have it there, right? If it's just
Yeah.
sitting
Yeah.
there and it's not doing anything for you, then it's like looking at all this money in a bank account that you can't touch. So
Yeah. Yep.
it makes sense to access it.
So, having said that, what you guys were saying that you were mentioning that you guys don't do HELOCs. You do what do you do, and what's the difference between a traditional HELOC that everyone hears about and what you guys offer, or is it the same?
It's the main difference is, so our company offers a HELOC in Alaska, but here in Washington, Oregon, we don't have those right now. So what we can offer is a separate second loan. So it's kind of one of the scenarios I was talking about earlier, where you would get a second loan on your property, and that money would then be deposited, as opposed to a kind of revolving line of credit on the property.
Okay.
So that one can be a little bit more convenient, but again, when you're looking at the overall cost, because our options are the second loan or the cash out refi, and so again, it kind of goes back to having a really good idea on what your plan is with the home and what your plan is with the money, because a longer term means that you're going to have interest for a longer period of time, but your payment, which is what everybody focuses on, what's my monthly payment to access this money, even if I never pay it off, is it manageable, as opposed to something that's only 10 years, but I'm going to scrape every penny I can just to make the payment. So kind of just different needs, provide, like, okay, this your need here, this is probably the best loan for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's great news.
Yeah.
I Do you have anything you want to add about that before we kind of sign off here, or are you good?
No, I think I've kind of thrown everything out there without, probably, hopefully not rambling too much. But just, I think the biggest thing is just to be aware that, how to access the equity that you have.
Yeah.
Because, most of the time, if you were to ask somebody, hey, how do you access your equity? They probably just say, sell the house, or maybe try to do a refi or something to get it, which, yes, both of those work, but again, there's so many different ways to do it, and figuring out what the best is for you. Definitely, you can do research online, you can find out a lot of stuff, but I think the best thing that you can do is talk to somebody about it and really figure out where the differences are, what's the best way to do it, long term
Yeah.
and short term. So
Yeah, I was just, and we will harp on it as we go on in these Wednesday talks. Is like it's just more and more critical. I think it's an intimidating process to get into the loans and home
mhm.
equity lines of credit. We talk it all the time, so it's easy for us. But I think for most people, it's really intimidating. And I think the biggest thing, especially in this market, is to talk to someone. Like, just talk to
Yeah.
someone you're comfortable with, ask them the questions, because I think there's a lot of ability to gain wealth in this market for people, and I think they
Mhm.
just don't know, or don't know where to start to access that equity, access that ability to leverage funds to in order to do that. So I don't know, I think it's just more important than ever to have people on your side that know what they're doing,
Mhm.
can offer the options, and go check those out and see what they offer. But
Yeah,
that's just
yeah.
my 2 cents.
No, I'm with you. And I think that for a lot of people too, they're like, oh, I don't want to waste that person's time, or maybe I'm not
Yeah.
ready yet, so I'll just
Yep.
wait until I get there. But I know I can speak for myself at least, and probably you too. But we want, more than anything, to make sure that the people that we're helping are educated in the process. And so even if that means answering a million questions and nothing happens for 5 years, or nothing ever happens, right? At least
Yeah.
you know more. So don't be afraid to reach out to whoever that might be. Hopefully it's Joe and I, but if it's not, then just, pick their brain. Like,
Yeah,
that's what we're here for. We're here to help people. So,
for sure. Well,
yep.
thanks, Cody. I hope you have a good rest of your week. I don't see any more questions than that on the topic, and so yeah, we'll meet up next week, and we'll
Yeah.
get at it.
Awesome. Well, enjoy your week, man.
Okay, sounds good. We'll talk soon, man.